The 99 agents before me who tried to win over Chloe. All failed. They all died. I was the 100th and the one who's lasted the longest because I procrastinate. I'd never even met her. How can you fail if you never start? I was living like I'd found a glitch in the system, spending my days in a haze of luxury, and wasting money like it was nothing. Until the 10th year, when she finally found me and asked, her patience clearly worn, "Why haven't you come for me yet?" As an agent, I was both a great success and a massive failure. A success because the 99 before me were all dead, and here I was, still alive, having survived in this perilous world for a full decade. A failure because in 10 whole years, I had yet to formally meet Chloe, for no other reason than my profound love for procrastination. For the first few years, the system would hit me with its daily trifecta of fatal prompts. Why aren't you trying to win over Chloe yet? When do you plan on winning over Chloe? Shouldn't you be going to win over Chloe right now? Each time, I'd calmly reply, soon, soon. This time for sure. I'm on it right now. But the moment the system looked away, I'd immediately start dawdling, finding any excuse to push the plan to tomorrow. After a few more years, the system stopped asking. My motto had become, hope is always on the horizon of tomorrow. For my very first day in this world, I knew what a terrifying person Chloe was. Legend had it she was devastatingly beautiful, with a gentle, fragile aura that held a fatal attraction. Many agents had been counter-conquered by her, willingly dying for her. Legend also said her IQ and EQ were off the charts. Her eyes like the latest lie detectors. No one could lie to her and live. The agents who tried to deceive her all died horribly. After hearing all the legends, I concluded she was a beautiful, brilliant, deadly, and ruthless succubus. In the real world, I couldn't even get a date with a pretty girl. Here, I was supposed to win over someone like Chloe in my dreams. So, as someone who could delay a shower for hours, facing a target this difficult, I easily managed to procrastinate. For a decade before me, the system had never encountered anyone like me, so it hadn't set a time limit for the mission. I lived like a bug in the code, indulging in every pleasure, living a life of bliss. The system, however, was getting more stressed by the day. As long as I didn't start, I wouldn't die, which meant the next agent couldn't enter. This world would eventually be dragged to its death by my procrastination. So under the pressure of my delay, the system finally caved and rolled out a mission. Deadline reform. Main objective, win over Chloe. Time remaining, 1 year. Penalty for failure. Deduction of all life points. Honestly, seeing the new mission panel, I felt a flicker of something, but not much. The thought of trying to fight for my life lasted all of a second. The next second, I figured I might as well just die. But even dying felt like too much effort. I decided to lie down for a bit and leave hope to tomorrow. I just didn't expect tomorrow to come so quickly. The middle of the night. I was sound asleep when my room suddenly turned eerie and cold. I figured I'd left a window open. It was a bit chilly, but I was too lazy to move. My eyelids fluttered for a moment. Then I fell back into a deep sleep. Ethan, a clear, pleasant female voice sounded by my ear. In my dream, my favorite game character had broken through the fourth wall to call my name. My eyes still closed. I smiled and said, honey, I love you. A cold, snake-like touch slithered onto my wrist. Then a powerful force yanked me out of bed. You dared to get married? The woman said through gritted teeth. I was instantly shocked awake, my eyes wide. The woman before me had long, black hair cascading over her shoulders. Her eyelids cool, and her eyes turned at the corners. Her skin was an almost sickly pale, and her light brown irises held a chilling, killing intent. She was strangely terrifying and strangely beautiful. But I racked my brain and couldn't remember which of my virtual wives this was, coming to see me in the flesh, only to overhear me calling someone else honey. What a thrillingly awkward scene. So I tried guessing. Cassie? Holly? With every name I said, her face grew a shade darker. It seems you've had quite an exciting life. While I was away, she sized me up, her gaze dangerously roaming over me, and said, word by word, Ethan, I'm Chloe. I sucked in a sharp breath. It's been 10 years. Why haven't you come to win me over yet? She asked. Her tone as casual as an old friend catching up. But in this situation, it was even more terrifying. It was like the uncanny valley of text. From an awakened AI, I was so scared I was trembling, completely unable to look at her. I haven't gotten around to it yet, I stammered. I'd actually thought that if there were no time limit, maybe I'd give winning her over a shot. When I was in my 70s. Or 80s. Is that so? Then, when do you plan on starting? How about, tomorrow? I'll be waiting with bated breath, Chloe said with a coldness that floated on the surface and never reached her eyes. At the time, she didn't know that for me, tomorrow was an adjective, not a noun, used to describe a time that was always coming, but would never arrive. The next morning, I woke up as usual, but kept my eyes closed, lazing in bed. Ethan, who was that disturbing my sleep so early? I pulled the covers over my head and went back to sleep. The next second, a pale, cold hand ripped my blanket away and hauled me up. I let out a scream. Shut up, Clara, said coldly, her expression impatient. If you don't want to be poison mute. I had no doubt this woman would do exactly as she said. I just didn't understand. Why was Chloe really in my house? Wasn't I dreaming last night? And Chloe, as if she knew exactly what I was thinking, let out a sneer. Oh, no wonder you were so calm. You thought it was a dream. I finally remembered the first page of the file I had skimmed so many years ago. Chloe, female, 16 years old, possesses mind-reading abilities. 10 years ago, the system had even scheduled me for mind control lessons to prevent me from becoming a walking live feed of comments in front of her. I put off taking it forever, and now I wondered if it was too late. Chloe's lips curled in a sneer. Too late, you walking live feed. With that, Lila walked towards me, her eyes darkening with an unreadable emotion. Show me what you've got, agent. I looked at her face, then at her neck. Her aura was cool and detached, and her casual attire was somehow incredibly sexy. A cream-colored slip dress clung to her even paler skin, exuding a cold, almost desolate allure from her very bones. I swallowed hard. I remembered a famous quote. That concealment is a landscape of unknown nudity. A person like this made you fear the unknown, yet irresistibly drawn to explore it in broad daylight. I don't think that's a good idea, I said, feigning reluctance. What's not a good idea? She replied, playing along. It was an overcast day, and the room was dim. I summoned my courage, knelt on the bed, and put my hands on her shoulders. She watched me with a cold, piercing gaze, a hint of scrutiny in her eyes. But in the end, she let me pull her towards me. I gently hugged her. Even her embrace was cold, but she had a pleasant, light scent of white tea. Good tea, good tea. I buried my head in her neck and held her tighter. She didn't push me away, just when I thought this might be working. A cold, emotionless, electronic voice suddenly sounded in my ear. System, target Chloe's affinity is now -50. I shoved her away, incredulous. Was she even human? It was one thing for her affinity not to increase, but to drop so much. Chloe looked down at where I had hugged her, brushing away invisible dust. To win me over, she said contemptuously, this is hardly enough. If it's not enough, then it's not enough. It's not like I really wanted to win her over anyway. Someone as difficult as her. Bridging the gap from -50 to 100 affinity would take 150 of my lives. If it came down to it, I'd rather just die. I apathetically flopped back onto the bed and tried to pull the covers over my head for a grand self-burial. She grabbed the blanket, her voice icy. You want to die? I nodded, giving up completely. Yeah, want to send me off? She didn't say anything, but extended a hand and wrapped it around my neck. Then she squeezed. She was expressionless as she choked me, as if she were stepping on an ant. I couldn't breathe until the last wisp of air was stolen from me. My vision blurred, turning into a white, misty expanse. Just as I thought, I was about to become the 100th agent to go offline. The system's cold, merciless voice sounded again. System, target Chloe's affinity has increased by 5. Current affinity, -45. Too bad. I don't want to grant your wish. Chloe let go. My body reacted uncontrollably. I coughed violently, gasping for air like a dying, dehydrated fish. She just stood there, laughing softly, and said nonchalantly, but you don't actually think that dying in this world will send you back to your own, do you? What a sadist. Choking me half to death. actually raised her affinity by 5 points. I glared at her, wishing I could do all sorts of unspeakable things to her. But she was right. I had assumed that dying here would mean returning to my original world. Such foolish innocence. Your only way to live now is to win me over. Succeed, and you go back to your world. Fail, and I'll teach you the meaning of death again. And so, in my 10th year in this world, I officially began my mission to win over Chloe. Day 1, it was raining. Couldn't go out. Day 2, it was too sunny. Didn't want to go out. Day 3, I overslept. Didn't go out. More than half a month passed, and I was still sealed inside my house. By the front door, Chloe would even call me every few days to ask when she would see some action. It made me anxious and on edge every time. The more anxious I got, the more I procrastinated. And the more I procrastinated, the more anxious I became. A perfect vicious cycle. One day, I was lying in bed contemplating my grand strategy when my phone rang. I let it ring for 5 minutes before finally succumbing to Chloe's relentless barrage of calls. I answered the phone and said in a last-ditch effort, "Well, you see, according to the original plan, I should have started by now, but due to various reasons, the plan has been temporarily shelved. However, I'm currently working hard to resolve this issue, and I believe I'll be taking the next step very soon." She let out a soft laugh. On the other end of the line, I could even picture her expression, a cool gaze, with a mocking smile playing on her lips. Ethan. Hearing her say my name, I suddenly had a bad feeling. "If I don't see you today, you can expect to be bankrupt," she said without a trace of mercy. Damn, that's harsh. The main reason I could live so comfortably in this world, eating and waiting for death, was because I had endless money. Making me bankrupt was worse than killing me. At 3:40 in the morning, I showed up at Chloe's door fully geared up. She was woken up by me in the middle of the night and looked like she wanted to kill me. I pretended not to see the murderous aura and held up a thermal lunchbox. "I'm here to deliver your food." Delivering food in the middle of the night? Ethan, are you doing this on purpose? She glanced at the pink lunchbox in my hand, and the murderous look on her face intensified. System, target Chloe's affinity has decreased by 10. Current affinity, minus 55. I had cooked the food in the afternoon. I didn't want to deliver it so late either. It was all because right before I left, I took one more look at the case files of the agents who had tried to win Chloe over. Before me, 10 years ago, Chloe was a sallow-faced high school student. No parents, couldn't even get a hot meal. The 19th agent, her desk mate, had managed to raise her affinity to 30 by bringing her lunch every day. He was the one who had gotten the farthest on the path to winning her over. I had planned to use the same trick to score some affinity points. But then it hit me, for a Yandere like Chloe, if the act of bringing her food reminded her of her. A week passed. I might be in for a world of hurt. So I crammed at the last minute, frantically flipping through the case files. The more I read, the more horrified I became. Chloe's triggers were as numerous as the sensitive spots on a grumpy cat. My predecessors had always managed to precisely step on every single one of her landmines. I forced a smile that was uglier than a cry. "It's dinner. It's delicious." Was I here to deliver food? No, I was here to deliver myself to my death. "Are you afraid of me?" Chloe suddenly leaned in close, her eyes level with mine. Her light brown pupils danced, with a shallow, wicked, and careless smile, like a predator in the wild, toying with its struggling prey after a full meal. Her gaze made me so nervous that I started singing in my head. Do I go? Am I worthy with this ragged cloak I wear? Do I fight? I fight on with the most pathetic dream. Chloe's face darkened. "Shut up," she said. I looked at her with innocent eyes. I didn't even open my mouth. She snorted. "Singing in your head, and you're still off-key." I was not off-key, but I was too scared to argue. So I just continued my silent protest song in my head. "Who says only those in the light can be heroes?" Her voice turned cold. "Sing one more line and see what happens." Fearing for my life, I didn't dare test her. I stood obediently at the door, watching her turn and walk back inside. It was the middle of winter, and she wasn't even wearing slippers. Her bare feet on the cold floor. Wasn't she afraid of getting arthritis? She glanced back at me. I got it. My internal monologue was disturbing her. I sealed my heart and locked my thoughts. She pulled out a chair and sat down at the dining table, then looked at me from a distance. her tone displeased. Still standing there like an idiot? You here to bring me food? Under Chloe's chilling gaze, I slowly walked over with my pink lunchbox and opened it in front of her. She frowned at the food inside. I steeled myself and introduced it. This is stir-fried beef with green peppers, my specialty. You can give it a try, Miss Chloe. She was silent for a moment, then said, You've read my file, haven't you? Of course, I said. Of course I hadn't. That thing was impossible to read. More daunting than the first word of a foreign language dictionary. Her birthday, zodiac sign, blood type, star sign, hobbies, taboos, interests, skills, shortcomings. From her childhood trauma, down to which finger she cut on. A certain day, only an idiot would read all that. Chloe's expression was a little disgusted, but she still picked up the pink heart-shaped spoon and brought the food to her mouth. She ate with such elegance, as if she weren't eating stir-fried beef with green peppers, but savoring a French gourmet meal. I couldn't help but swallow, watching from the side. Was it really that good? It's not good, she said. Not good, yet you're eating it with such enjoyment. System. Target Chloe's affinity has increased by 15. Current affinity. -40. TSK. Why was Chloe so easy to win over today? And her face was actually red. Chloe was usually so cold and aloof, but with a blush on her face. She had a kind of forbidden sexy, cool yet pure contrast. Wait, I rubbed my eyes and realized that not only was her face red, but her neck and arms were also covered in a large patch of red. And that patch of red seemed to be spreading. I pointed at her body in horror. Miss Chloe, you're... I rushed out. I didn't poison you. Chloe glanced at me, perfectly calm. I know. I'm allergic to beef. At 5:40 in the morning, in the hospital, the doctors took turns lecturing me. Are allergies a joke? They can be life-threatening in severe cases. You young people, all you care about is your love lives. You have no regard for life at all. This was mainly because Chloe had said, So what if I'm allergic? This is the first time he's ever cooked for me himself. If I weren't the protagonist of this story, I probably would have been fooled by the deep affection in her eyes too. After lecturing me, the doctor's expression softened a bit. As he left the room, he was still complaining to a nurse. Kids these days, really? They'd risk their lives for a relationship. The room was left with just the two of us. Chloe lay on the hospital bed, her eyes closed, her face even paler than usual. She exuded a sick, tragic, and fragile beauty. But I hadn't forgotten that her greatest skill was deception. 10 years ago, she had used this damsel in distress act to make countless agents willingly die. For her, history taught us with bloody lessons never to feel sorry for a woman. She asked in a hoarse voice, What are you thinking? I pouted. Don't you already hear everything? She paused, her expression unreadable. I don't want to listen right now. I just want to hear you say it. I was a little angry, but I wasn't quite sure what I was angry about. You knew you were allergic to beef, so why did you? I trailed off, unable to continue, because Chloe had opened her eyes and was staring at me. Those light brown pupils, which usually held the deepest malice, were now clean and clear, with only my reflection in them. Because you're the first and the only one. The only agent who doesn't treat me like a target. To be stared at so intently by Chloe was deadly. That look, it was as if I was the only person in the world. It was also like a black hole, from which not even light could escape. Not to mention her face had a fatal attraction, so beautiful. It was terrifying, making it impossible to look away. A thought suddenly popped into my head. If Chloe were the agent, and I were the target, I probably wouldn't last 3 seconds. Suddenly, Chloe beckoned for me to sit on the edge of her bed. I quickly waved my hands in panic. I'm fine standing. She grabbed my hand without a word. I tried to pull back, but couldn't break free. Her eyelids fluttered as she asked in a hoarse voice, So, do you want to try seriously winning me over? Not as a target, but just as Chloe. As she spoke, she rubbed her thumb against my fingers. A gesture so light it was like a caress. Her expression was serious, yet her tone was nonchalant. Her actions were intimate, yet her eyes were restrained. It was so unfair. Just as I was wondering how to react, Chloe let go of my hand, lifted her gaze, and said with a dismissive, TSK, Ethan, you're actually pretty easy to win over. Ark, this woman. I couldn't figure her out. I couldn't handle her advances. And I couldn't beat her in a fight. It was infuriating. Chloe's wickedness didn't stop there. After she was discharged from the hospital, she started ordering me around even more, turning me into her on-call servant. If I was a minute late, my stocks would turn red. I wasn't procrastinating anymore, but I was anxious every day, terrified that one day I'd wake up and find all my money gone before I was dead. What was worse, she made me work like a dog, but didn't even raise my affinity. After more than half a month, her affinity had barely climbed to 30. I still owed her 70 points. One morning, she called me to her company again. I wasn't late, but she wasn't there. Mr. Ethan, Miss Chloe is in a meeting. Please wait here for a moment. Her secretary led me to a lounge, brought me water and snacks. She even thoughtfully closed the door on her way out, shielding me from the gossiping eyes outside. I sighed. Lately, a terrible rumor had been spreading through Chloe's company. Hey, did you know Miss Chloe has a boyfriend now? I know. I heard he comes to see her several times a day, and she doesn't even get tired of it. Who could be that impressive? I don't know. He looks pretty average. Not as good looking as that young celebrity who was chasing her before. If Miss Jasmine finds out, she's gonna cause a scene, right? Speaking of which, I haven't seen Miss Jasmine in a long time. Miss Chloe has already banned her from the company. Didn't you know? I had overheard the above conversation one day, by accident. If this continued, I would soon go from being Miss Chloe's boyfriend to Miss Chloe's husband. I scrolled through my phone bored, waiting for Chloe to summon me. Suddenly, a commotion erupted outside the door. A young, arrogant female voice was particularly clear. Is she in there? Let me in. How dare you? Who do you think you are trying to stop me? I'll tell my sister and she'll fire all of you. Was there drama? I immediately perked up my ears when Jasmine burst into the lounge. She came face to face with me, who was peeking out the window enjoying the show. I spat out a broken sunflower seed shell and waved at her. Jasmine, long time no see. 10 years ago, I was Jasmine's deskmate. Back then, I was always bullied because of my meek personality, but Jasmine said I could only be bullied by her, no one else. From then on, I became her exclusive punching bag. She would dump all the homework she didn't want to do on me, but every time I finished her homework for her, she would toss a big bag of snacks onto my desk and order me to eat it all, even though she always scolded me. Her actions never matched her words, which always gave me the illusion that the rich young lady was spoiling me rotten. It's you. Her expression went from angry to confused, and finally back to angry. So you're the scumbag who seduced my sister. Let me tell you, Chloe is mine. No one can take her from me. Her face was flushed with anger as she walked towards me, step by step. I was about to explain when I saw her pull a gleaming dagger from her bag. Oh hell no, I immediately turned and ran. Jasmine lunged at me like a mad woman, cornering me. Her knee pressed against my leg. Her hand clamped down on my shoulder. Her beautiful face was only inches from mine. If it weren't for the dagger pressed against my cheek, I might have marveled at her stunning beauty. Her eyes were wild, her voice frantic. Your face, it's not even ass. She is mine. So why does she only look at you and not me? Is it just because of your gender? In that case, I might as well just ruin you. With that, she raised the dagger high, about to slash at me. In the nick of time, I wrapped my arms around her waist, buried my head in her neck, and tackled her to the ground. The dagger flew into a corner. Jasmine fell to the floor, and I landed on top of her. She frowned, silent, while I wailed in pain. My hands hurt so much. Both my hands had been wrapped around her waist, acting as a human cushion. The other hand had instinctively cushioned the back of her head. Both of my hands hurt so much. They didn't feel like my own. Shut up, Jasmine snapped, so fierce. I shouldn't have cushioned her fall. Get off me, she said. I refused to get off her no matter what. I wasn't completely stupid. What if I got up and she tried to stab me again? Jasmine's frown deepened. Her exquisite face showed a mix of confusion, pain, and conflict until she finally had to ask me, who are you? Why am I here? Well, looks like she might have amnesia from the fall. An idea sparked in my mind. Jasmine, I'm your long-lost deskmate, Ethan. She stared at me for a long while, then asked, Little turtle? Jasmine and we whispered and laughed out loud. I talked to her about the past, the present, and our dreams. This cheerful atmosphere lasted until a woman walked into the lounge. Chloe's face was cold, her anger suppressed. Jasmine, how many times have I told you not to appear in front of me without my permission? Sister. Jasmine's eyes immediately turned red. I tried to mediate from the side. Don't be so harsh on your sister. Chloe's eyes darkened to the point of dripping ink. He sneered. I'm not allowed to be harsh on her. So you're allowed to be harsh on me, even without mind reading. I knew she was furious right now. With every step Chloe took towards me, my head bowed lower, until it was almost touching the ground. I wasn't being harsh. I mumbled. Ethan, duck! Chloe suddenly yelled. In my peripheral vision, I saw Jasmine grab the dagger from the floor and rush towards me, muttering, Sister is mine alone. I quickly covered my head and ducked. A flurry of chaotic sounds. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I don't know why this is happening. When I looked up again, I saw Jasmine distraught, drop the knife and run out of the lounge crying. Only Chloe was left standing there, clutching her bleeding arm, her expression unreadable. After a moment of hesitation, I gathered my courage, pointed to my own head and carefully asked, Jasmine, a little, not right in the head. Chloe glanced at me and, instead of worrying about others, you should worry about yourself. Who is it just now who said that among the three of us, I was the third wheel? I looked down, feeling guilty. I almost forgot she had mind reading. I had turned into a live feed of comments again, but I still couldn't figure it out. Why had Jasmine become like this? In my memory, she was spoiled and willful, but she was still a normal person. Chloe let out a soft laugh. Her light brown pupils held the coldness of someone who had seen through human nature. She said mockingly, It's normal that you don't understand, because this is your game world. I once again felt that strong sense of dissonance, like the uncanny valley of text from an awakened AI. I desperately tried to change the subject, pointing at her wound. You're bleeding a lot. I'll take you to the hospital now. Chloe's face was pale, ghastly without a trace of blood, but her lips were rosy. No need. I won't die just yet, she said faintly. Ethan, do you remember how you first came to this world? I, of course, remembered. 10 years ago, my career and love life had both hit rock bottom. I shut myself in my house day and night, obsessively playing dating sims. Cute, cool, young, old, pure love. Forbidden love, domineering, gentle, cold, rebellious, white-haired, black-haired. I played almost every type there was, until one day I received a mysterious invitation. Without much hesitation, I opened the black envelope. A letter and a small card fell out. Pink paper, black gilded, with a few sentences written on it. Are you willing to teach someone who has never been loved what love is? Are you willing to join me on an adventure of love, or perhaps a human experiment? Are you willing to teach me the truths that cannot be deduced by reason and science? At the time, I didn't pay much attention to the text, because my attention was completely captivated by the black-haired girl on the small card. The girl was frail and covered in wounds, her hands tied behind her back, but she still held her head high, her delicate features showing no trace of fragility. The unwillingness and struggle in her eyes, almost bursting through the card, refusing to admit defeat for even a moment. I unilaterally declared my love at first sight. On the back of the card, there was a line of beautiful handwriting. Do you want to cross dimensions and meet me? Yes, yes, yes. No otaku could resist the temptation of breaking the fourth wall. Without much hesitation, I signed the mysterious test agreement and the corresponding confidentiality agreement. And then, I came to this world. 10 years later, Chloe stood before me. Her eyes were cool, her tone flat as she asked, Ethan, am I just a toy to you people? A sharp pain shot through my heart, because I vaguely saw the girl kneeling on the ground. From 10 years ago, it was as if she was still trapped in that small card, weakly fighting back, never admitting defeat. I wanted to say something, but I didn't know what to say. I couldn't deny that when I first came here, I just thought it was a game. But how could she be a toy? I came to this world because I loved her. System. Target Chloe's affinity has increased by 30. Current affinity, 0. The system's voice suddenly rang out. I looked at Chloe, blinking in disbelief. It wasn't negative anymore. And she smiled. Not a cold smile, a mocking smile, or a fake smile. Although the smile was so faint it was almost invisible, I didn't miss it. It was like the sun breaking through after a snowstorm. A stunning sight that cleared the world. You can actually smile. I accidentally said my thoughts out loud. The smile on Chloe's lips faded slightly, but the smile in her eyes deepened. Ethan, from now on, stop procrastinating and win me over properly, she said. Chloe, you stop procrastinating too. Let's go to the hospital first, I replied. With that, I rushed her to the hospital. The emergency room doctor was the same one. The moment he saw us, he was so angry his beard trembled, and he said, "You kids today, you're not playing with allergies. You're playing with knives." I don't know if it was because Chloe had let her guard down around me, but her affinity had been rising steadily lately. A greeting +1, a text message +1, a phone call +1, watching a movie +1, eating together +1, walking with her +1, picking her up from work +1, bumping into her on the street +1. Her affinity increased with extreme regularity. It even felt like I was checking off tasks in a single-player game. After 3 months of my relentless efforts, I finally managed to raise Chloe's affinity to 32. There was nothing I could do. Her affinity increased regularly, but it dropped for no reason at all. If there were a line graph, you could visually see the fluctuations in her affinity. Up, down, 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 up, down, 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 down. I always managed to step on her triggers by accident. System, target Chloe's affinity has decreased by 5. Current affinity, 27. One day, I hadn't even done anything. Just appeared in front of her, and she got angry again. Stingy. I couldn't help but complain in my head. System, target Chloe's affinity has decreased by 10. Current affinity, 17. Hearing the system's voice, my vision went black. Over a month of effort down the drain, and Chloe herself was sitting at her desk, wearing glasses, seriously typing on her keyboard. She hadn't even looked at me since I walked in, and she had already deducted so many points. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. I strode over to her and asked discontentedly, "Why did you deduct so many points?" She didn't look up, still typing on her keyboard, ignoring me completely. I blocked her screen with my hand. She paused for a moment. Then her long, slender white fingers continued to fly across the black keyboard, typing out lines of code. I got even more pissed off and plopped myself down on her desk, trying to block her screen with my body. I even threatened her fiercely. "If you don't give me a reasonable explanation, you can forget about working." Chloe sat in her office chair, her calm gaze falling on me through her glasses. The air conditioning was on, but I felt strangely hot. Chloe with glasses on was really something else, especially since she was in a formal suit, exuding a cold, ascetic aura. Chloe's gaze fell on me again, not a fleeting glance, but a lingering one, roaming over my lips, my neck, my thighs. Just as I thought something was about to happen, she let out a very, very soft sneer. I was furious. It turns out that when a person is extremely angry, they tend to do things they normally want to do, but don't dare to. In a fit of anger, I grabbed her hand and demanded, "Why are you angry for no reason? And why are you laughing at me for no reason?" Her face turned cold, her beautiful, narrow eyes squinting into a dangerous arc. Her dangerous gaze fell on my hand, as she said in a hoarse voice, "You're getting bolder and bolder." I boldly retorted, "Well, you're in my hands now." Chloe suddenly asked, "Who is Holly?" I was dumbfounded. What Holly? Forget her string of confusing actions. The main thing was I didn't even know anyone named Holly. Chloe's eyes grew even colder as she asked in a low, chilling voice, "Yesterday at 12:45, who said Holly loves reading comics the most?" I thought for a long time and finally remembered. Yesterday at noon, after lunch with Chloe, we happened to see a comic book store on the street, and it reminded me of a certain game character who loved reading comics. I slowly turned my gaze back to Chloe. A look of unease appeared on Chloe's usually proud and self-possessed face. A ridiculous yet bold guess suddenly surfaced in my mind. Chloe, could she be competing for my affection with my other virtual wives? I held back my laughter and said, "Miss Chloe, rest assured, I've only broken the fourth wall for you. No other woman can threaten your position for now." Halfway through my sentence, I couldn't help but burst out laughing, and the laughter only got louder the more I tried to hold it in. But I forgot one thing. My hand was still holding hers, and when I laughed, I tightened my grip on her wrist. Chloe winced in pain. I quickly let go, but it was too late. Chloe's face was flushed, her back pressed against the office chair, her eyes flashing with anger, with a few glints of tears. I couldn't help but think of some famous dating sim scenes, the office, the uniform, the glasses. The woman who was usually high and mighty, cold and ascetic, with the office door closed, letting me do as I pleased. If I could ignore Chloe's personality and her dangerous nature, her face and body were perfect for it. A cold, emotionless system voice sounded in my ear again. System, target Chloe's affinity has increased by 5. Current affinity, 22. Deduct all you want. It's not like I have much left anyway. Wait, that's not right. I stared wide-eyed. I think the system just said her affinity went up. Is she some kind of masochist? Chloe let out a soft laugh, her long, slender white fingers slowly tracing my Adam's apple. Ethan, she said meaningfully, I never knew you were into this kind of thing. I swallowed hard, completely speechless. Ethan, do they usually do this to you too? Huh. What about them? Cassie? Holly? With every name she said, my heart skipped a beat. How did she even remember the names of all my wives? And her actions right now were so wrong. Chloe untied the black silk scarf from her neck and tied it around my hands. Then she asked me slowly, Husband, besides winning me over, how many other good husbands do you have? I looked at the silk scarf tied around my wrist. Was she tying a silk scarf? No, she was tying my life. My survival instinct kicked in. None. They're just 2D wives. It's not what you think. Chloe looked up and met my eyes. As I sat on the desk, my hands tied. Wives are not allowed either. I'm not the sharing type. If you want to win me over, it has to be heart for heart. She tugged on the silk scarf, pulling me towards her. At a time like this, of course I didn't dare say that I was sincere. With every 2D character. Not to mention, Chloe's face was so close. Her beauty was intoxicating, and those beautiful light brown eyes were both scrutinizing and seductive. So I could only ramble nonsense. Miss Chloe, aren't we being a little too intimate? What do you think? I'm an honest person. I don't do ambiguity. Then let's not be ambiguous. She let go of the scarf, releasing me. Then she gracefully distanced herself from me. The pleasant scent of white tea on her also grew cold with the distance. For no reason, I felt a pang of disappointment. The next second, she changed her position, lifted me up and pressed me against the desk again. Be my boyfriend, she said. What? One wave after another. I was so scared I was about to lose my mind. Not to mention, her next move was even more soul-crushing. Aren't you always thinking about how to win me over? Faster. I'll teach you. Her hot breath, her playful tone traveled along my sensitive ear canal, straight to my brain, sending shivers down my spine. Then she playfully bit the back of my neck. A cold, emotionless system voice sounded in my ear again. System, target Chloe's affinity has increased by 10. Current affinity, 32, but soon. I had to ignore that voice, because Chloe was whispering in my ear again, like a demon. If you want it, hold me tight. No one can escape a demon's gaze, especially when she has a body that rivals an angel's. I struggled for no more than 2 seconds before succumbing to my true desires and gently holding her tight. She was usually so cold, but now her embrace was scorching. I heard her laughter in my ear again. Ethan, she said, my name like a demon's whisper. My jacket's a little hot. Help me take it off. I could only act like a servant, helping her undress, offering her my loyalty. In my 10th year in this world, on the 206th day of officially trying to win over Chloe, I became her boyfriend. People might not believe it, but I was Chloe's first love. Although she had a face that looked like it had been through countless battles, her inexperienced kisses would occasionally betray her. But that trace of inexperience gradually faded. As our strategy tutorials deepened, the deeper we went, the more addicted and obsessed I became with her. Not just her looks and her body, but her every word and action. Chloe was a psycho, and a very patient one at that. When I procrastinated, she would never rush me. She would just silently stare at me, her gaze a silent baptism, both scrutinizing and seductive. That look would always make me remember every secret place I had recklessly explored. Under her silent supervision, my procrastination got much better, and I would often forget my identity as an agent, treating her only as my girlfriend. After all, she had said it had to be heart for heart. Not to mention, She practically doted on me. You're my boyfriend. And who else would I be good to? Honey, this is your reward. If you want something, come and get it yourself. Think less, do more. She was always so giving, letting me do as I pleased. Of course, it would be better if her requests for rewards were a little more restrained. On the 101st day of being Chloe's boyfriend, her affinity was still stuck at 80. For the past half month, no matter what I did, whether I made her happy or angry, her affinity neither increased nor decreased. It felt like the final week of a single-player game, but I hadn't unlocked the key ending yet. Main mission, win over Chloe. Time remaining, 58 days. Penalty for failure, deduction of all life points. The system still broadcasted the mission reminder. Every day, seeing the time tick down, I started to escape and procrastinate. Again, I stopped showing up in front of her at a set time. Every day, and I stopped racking my brain, trying to figure out what she liked. Instead, I shut myself in my small room, spending my days and nights reading Chloe's files. The life of Chloe that I had once avoided, procrastinated on, never faced. She had lived with her mother since she was a child. When she was 5, her mother died, and she started living with various relatives, being disliked, misunderstood, and abused. If this world was a large-scale game, then she was the protagonist targeted by all malice, bullied by classmates, despised by relatives. At 16, the father who had acknowledged her took her for 6 different DNA tests in different places, and even pointed at her nose and called her a bastard. For her, growing up was a series of endless hurdles, as if there were no end in sight. The small kindnesses that had appeared in her life were mostly the false affections of agents. While reading her files, I often thought about one thing. What kind of happy ending would be worthy of her tumultuous journey? But the system had never said what would happen to her after the mission was successfully completed. These days, even when I closed my eyes, all I could see was the 26-year-old her, separated from me by a dimensional wall, trapped in a small. I shut myself in my house again, lying flat like a salted fish, doing nothing, like a salted fish. I would always procrastinate on things I didn't want to do, until Chloe came to my house and dragged me out of bed. I stared at her with dead fish eyes, emotionless. Ethan, you should change your name to Ethan Quit, she said. I still stared at her with dead fish eyes, emotionless. She smiled and pinched my cheek. Cute, she said. I glared at her with dead fish eyes full of anger. Ethan, she called my name, her tone serious. Her light brown pupils clean and clear, without any teasing or calculation. Just me, lying quietly in her eyes. Want to stay for me? She asked, then stroked my head. I didn't say anything, but in that second, the first thought that flashed through my mind. She must have heard it. An emotionless system voice sounded in my head. System. Target Chloe's affinity has increased by 1. Current affinity, plus 81. Then 82, 83, 84. She looked at me calmly. In my mind, a long-held suspicion was finally confirmed. She could indeed control her own affinity. A strong sense of loss washed over me. We still had so many things we hadn't had a chance to do together. Don't increase the affinity, I yelled in a panic. Ethan, affinity increased by 10. Current affinity, 100. She mimicked the system's voice, smiling happily. Stop, please. I'm begging you, I screamed hysterically. My dear, tell me, why do you like me so much? She asked. Her tone light and cheerful, a stark contrast to mine. System, target. Chloe's affinity has increased by 1. Current affinity, 99. I don't want to leave. I want to be with you forever. Unfortunately, before I could finish that sentence, I was sent out on the 321st day of my mission to win over Chloe. As the 100th agent, I successfully completed my mission. Before me was a long, dark tunnel, with thunderous applause in my ears. I tried hard to open my eyes and see clearly, but all I could see were a group of blurry figures in white coats surrounding me. Then I lost consciousness. When I woke up again, I quietly listened as a researcher explained the current situation. She said that my 10 years in the mission world were only a month. In reality, and their research on the experimental sample this time was very successful. I blinked slowly, realizing that the experimental sample they were talking about was Chloe. I nodded and asked, so where is she now? The researcher's expression suddenly turned regretful. Gone, she said. What do you mean, gone? After you left the mission world. She self-destructed. But it's okay. We've already observed enough data from this experiment, recording the awakening of AI consciousness and emotions. Everyone in the lab is very grateful for your contribution to science. I couldn't process her words. My mind was blank, except for one thought. Chloe was gone. My brain was a vast expanse of white. I pulled out the 4-needle and ran out. The lab was huge, filled with people. The people in white coats tackled me to the ground. Just as I was about to jump out the window, it looked like a doctor was giving me a shot. The agent's emotional state is unstable, requires further observation. A young, cold female voice came from the crowd. It was a little unfamiliar, yet a little familiar. I blinked. The woman squatted down in front of me. Her beautiful light brown eyes, cold and emotionless. This person had cool eyelids, upturned eyes, and skin that was almost sickly pale. She looked exactly like Chloe, but she seemed not to know me. But then I suddenly remembered. In the last second before I left the mission world, Chloe had said to me, "Silly, take care of yourself." Then a silent mouthing of words. Her lips moving, looking like wait. For me, I didn't know if it was real, a hallucination, or a lie. I was just in a daze all day, replaying images of Chloe in my mind, especially the last look she gave me before I left. The world, so deep, as if I was her whole world. I still couldn't understand why she would send me out of the mission world. Based on my previous understanding of her, she would have definitely dragged me down with her. How could she have made such a grand gesture of sending me out? In the white hospital room, different researchers and doctors came to see me every day. They said I was depressed, anxious, or something, but none of that mattered anymore. I was still trying every means possible to escape this hospital room. Although I wasn't sure if AIs went to the same world as humans after they died, I always felt it would be better than now. I had been neglecting myself for a long time, procrastinating, numb, lying flat. It was so hard to be a person again. How could I be willing to go back to an empty world? Just as I was about to climb out of the bathroom window, a hand, a pale, cold hand, firmly grabbed my collar. You want to die? Yeah. Want to send me off? I almost choked on my words, because before me was a very familiar face. The woman didn't say anything but extended a hand and slowly caressed my cheek, gently, like a caress. And those eyes, the light brown pupils clean and clear, only me lying obediently in them. I am sending you, but I'm sending you back, the woman said. Before I could ask for more details, Chloe took me back to the hospital room. Just one look, and I could confirm that the woman was Chloe, not Dr. Sterling on her name tag. Although I wasn't sure what had happened, Chloe was indeed not dead, and she had come from the virtual world to the real one. After knowing she wasn't dead, I went back to lying flat like a salted fish, free, eating well. The researchers in the institute were all gossiping that I had gone mad from grief. They laughed at my madness. I laughed at their inability to see the truth. Based on my understanding of Chloe, she would definitely do something. Now that she was in this world, the quieter she was, the bigger her plan. As a simple salted fish accessory, all I needed to do was be quiet, eat well every day, and not worry her. That was the biggest help I could be to her. Of course, I would occasionally be a little gossipy and secretly ask around about who Dr. Sterling was. The researchers were very secretive about her, but because in their eyes, I was a patient with a very unstable mental state, they let their guard down and told me a lot of gossip. Dr. Sterling was young, but she was already an expert in both brain science and artificial intelligence. She was also the initiator of the entire project. Chloe's appearance, body type, initial personality, and even her life story were all compiled by her and her team. In a way, she was both Chloe's mother and another Chloe in the world. After learning this inside information, my gaze towards Chloe became much more complicated. Dr. Sterling's body and Chloe's consciousness. In a way, wasn't this a kind of betrayal? In this world, Chloe didn't have mind reading, but it seemed she could still see through my thoughts. At a glance, she smiled coldly and said, "Get all that messy stuff out of your head." I pouted. I hadn't even started getting messy yet. For some reason, I suddenly missed her mind reading. In the mission world, if she could see the indescribable images in my head, right now, even if we didn't do anything, we would probably do something. I didn't say anything, but in that second, the first thought that flashed through my mind. She must have heard it. An emotionless system voice sounded in my head. System. Target Chloe's affinity has increased by 1. Current affinity, plus 81. Then 82, 83, 84. She looked at me calmly. In my mind, a long-held suspicion was finally confirmed. She could indeed control her own affinity. A strong sense of loss washed over me. We still had so many things we hadn't had a chance to do together. Don't increase the affinity, I yelled in a panic. Ethan, affinity increased by 10. Current affinity, 100. She mimicked the system's voice, smiling happily. Stop, please. I'm begging you, I screamed hysterically. My dear, tell me, why do you like me so much? She asked. Her tone light and cheerful, a stark contrast to mine. System, target. Chloe's affinity has increased by 1. Current affinity, 99. I don't want to leave. I want to be with you forever. Unfortunately, before I could finish that sentence, I was sent out on the 321st day of my mission to win over Chloe. As the 100th agent, I successfully completed my mission. Before me was a long, dark tunnel, with thunderous applause in my ears. I tried hard to open my eyes and see clearly, but all I could see were a group of blurry figures in white coats surrounding me. Then I lost consciousness. When I woke up again, I quietly listened as a researcher explained the current situation. She said that my 10 years in the mission world were only a month. In reality, and their research on the experimental sample this time was very successful. I blinked slowly, realizing that the experimental sample they were talking about was Chloe. I nodded and asked, so where is she now? The researcher's expression suddenly turned regretful. Gone, she said. What do you mean, gone? After you left the mission world, she self-destructed. But it's okay. We've already observed enough data from this experiment, recording the awakening of AI consciousness and emotions. Everyone in the lab is very grateful for your contribution to science. I couldn't process her words. My mind was blank, except for one thought. Chloe was gone. My brain was a vast expanse of white. I pulled out the 4-needle and ran out. The lab was huge, filled with people. The people in white coats tackled me to the ground. Just as I was about to jump out the window, it looked like a doctor was giving me a shot. The agent's emotional state is unstable, requires further observation. A young, cold female voice came from the crowd. It was a little unfamiliar, yet a little familiar. I blinked. The woman squatted down in front of me, her beautiful light brown eyes cold and emotionless. This person had cool eyelids, upturned eyes, and skin that was almost sickly pale. She looked exactly like Chloe, but she seemed not to know me. But then I suddenly remembered. In the last second before I left the mission world, Chloe had said to me, "Silly, take care of yourself." Then a silent mouthing of words, her lips moving, looking like wait. For me, I didn't know if it was real, a hallucination, or a lie. I was just in a daze all day, replaying images of Chloe in my mind, especially the last look she gave me before I left. The world, so deep, as if I was her whole world. I still couldn't understand why she would send me out of the mission world. Based on my previous understanding of her, she would have definitely dragged me down with her. How could she have made such a grand gesture of sending me out? In the white hospital room, different researchers and doctors came to see me every day. They said I was depressed, anxious, or something, but none of that mattered anymore. I was still trying every means possible to escape this hospital room. Although I wasn't sure if AIs went to the same world as humans after they died, I always felt it would be better than now. I had been neglecting myself for a long time, procrastinating, numb, lying flat. It was so hard to be a person again. How could I be willing to go back to an empty world? Just as I was about to climb out of the bathroom window, a hand, a pale, cold hand, firmly grabbed my collar. You want to die? Yeah. Want to send me off? I almost choked on my words, because before me was a very familiar face. The woman didn't say anything but extended a hand and slowly caressed my cheek, gently, like a caress. And those eyes, the light brown pupils clean and clear, only me lying obediently in them. I am sending you, but I'm sending you back, the woman said. Before I could ask for more details, Chloe took me back to the hospital room. Just one look And I could confirm that the woman was Chloe, not Dr. Sterling, on her name tag. Although I wasn't sure what had happened, Chloe was indeed not dead, and she had come from the virtual world to the real one. After knowing she wasn't dead, I went back to lying flat like a salted fish. Free, eating well. The researchers in the institute were all gossiping that I had gone mad from grief. They laughed at my madness. I laughed at their inability to see the truth. Based on my understanding of Chloe, she would definitely do something. Now that she was in this world, the quieter she was, the bigger her plan. As a simple salted fish accessory, all I needed to do was be quiet, eat well every day, and not worry her. That was the biggest help I could be to her. Of course, I would occasionally be a little gossipy and secretly ask around about who Dr. Sterling was. The researchers were very secretive about her, but because in their eyes, I was a patient with a very unstable mental state, they let their guard down and told me a lot of gossip. Dr. Sterling was young, but she was already an expert in both brain science and artificial intelligence. She was also the initiator of the entire project. Chloe's appearance, body type, initial personality, and even her life story were all compiled by her and her team. In a way, she was both Chloe's mother and another Chloe in the world. After learning this inside information, my gaze towards Chloe became much more complicated. Dr. Sterling's body and Chloe's consciousness. In a way, wasn't this a kind of betrayal? In this world, Chloe didn't have mind reading, but it seemed she could still see through my thoughts. At a glance, she smiled coldly and said, "Get all that messy stuff out of your head." I pouted. I hadn't even started getting messy yet. For some reason, I suddenly missed her mind reading. In the mission world, if she could see the indescribable images in my head, right now, even if we didn't do anything, we would probably do something. Chloe reached out and pinched my cheek. "Just wait a little longer. After we get through this, I'll satisfy you properly." Before I could ask what kind of satisfaction, a lingering gentle kiss almost took my breath away. "You've been very good lately. This is your reward," she said. I once asked Chloe how she broke through the fourth wall to come to this world. Every time, she would just smile and say, "I won't tell you yet, so you don't spend all day racking your brain." Damn it, not telling me just made me want to rack my brain even more. But then she would rub my ear and say softly, "But I was able to succeed thanks to you. Thanks to you." Crying and saying you couldn't bear to leave me, that you wanted to be with me forever. That gave me the motivation. "Ethan, you're a good boy. You deserve a reward." She was always like this, liking to whisper in my ear. When she did that, I couldn't take it. Gradually, I drifted off again, giving up on thinking. 2 weeks later, a huge fire broke out in the research institute. Because the fire started in the middle of the night, besides the data in the lab being destroyed, there were no casualties. After hearing this news, I quickly ran to the woman next to me and asked, "Did you do this?" She nodded and said faintly, "Yes." "You weren't even at the scene. How did you do it?" "It's a secret." No matter how curious I was, how much I pestered her, she wouldn't tell me. She just kept revisiting the things we did in the mission world with me over and over again. My consciousness and senses were softening as the tide rushed in, reaching my brain. She said again, "Ethan, from now on, we're truly free." Chloe's epilogue. If you knew your entire life was just a script compiled by someone else, what would you do? I am not a normal person. From a very early age, I had a strange feeling. I always felt like I was growing up in a transparent glass bottle, and the outside was the real world. Do normal people read minds? I could see through the most complex human nature. With just a glance, a well-dressed woman would secretly beat her husband. At home, a highly respected elite only thought about his own gains. A homeless man with nothing still thought about doing good deeds. But what did all these different human natures have to do with me? I just saw them. Even my own fate, I still felt, had little to do with me. What was even harder to understand was that humans, these things would cry when they were sad, laugh when they were happy, get angry when they were slapped, and be happy when they got a piece of candy. I studied and imitated for a long time, but I could never understand the underlying logic behind these various behaviors until I met her, a woman who looked very much like me. In this world, she was the only one whose mind I couldn't read. She would always appear out of nowhere and disappear, just as mysteriously. She seemed to know me very well. My preferences, my skills, my personality. When I was 4, I met her for the first time. She said, "Chloe, you are my pride." When I was 5, I lost my mother. She said, "Chloe, why aren't you crying?" When I was 10, a pet I was raising died. She said, "Chloe, this is life." When I was 13, I lost my only friend. She said, "Chloe, why are you still not sad?" God knows how much she annoyed me. I wanted to kill her every time I saw her. But I just lowered my head and said nothing. Control, tolerance, were the first lessons of my life, which I had long mastered. When I was 16, I met the first agent. She said, "Chloe, you must learn to feel emotions." They were always two-faced, pretending to offer me everything, but actually always wanting to take something from me. Why isn't the affinity increasing? She's clearly happy. Why did it still drop? The affinity they talked about was a toy I never got tired of playing with. I loved watching the two-faced nature of humans. Was this what they called emotions? I never tired of the game. When the 99th agent went offline, I still had no idea what emotions were. But it didn't matter. I wasn't very curious anyway. Humans in this world were just my toys. And so, I slowly waited for the 100th agent to appear. But I never expected that this wait would last. For 10 years. So long that I thought he would never appear. Until one day, I passed a boy on the street and heard a voice in his head. "Host, you should go win over Chloe." "I know. I'll do it tomorrow." I turned around and saw the back of a boy. I suddenly remembered asking that woman many years ago, "Why can I read minds?" The reason is complicated. You can think of it as a bug that was born along with you. In this world, a bug. This person like me was also a bug. That day, I still didn't know what kind of story I would have with this boy, or how I would change my so-called fate. There was only a strange impulse, something I wanted to figure out. And so, fate began to descend and quietly restart. System. Target Chloe's affinity has increased by 1. Current affinity, 100. Experiment code 106. Chloe has passed the emotional test. As I initiated the self-destruct sequence, that woman appeared before me again. She was shocked, anxious, and overjoyed. Before she could react, I invaded her consciousness. I still didn't know if someone like me could be called human, but all I knew was that I had to get to Ethan's side. And fast. After all, he's a stubborn coward who cries too easily. If I died, he would be very sad. Not to mention, I had promised him that we would have a happy ending.